Hello and welcome to episode 45 of No Load Time. My name is Obed, and with me is the lady killer, Mr. Joel Young.
Oh my goodness, Obed. We all know the story behind that one, and it has a lot to do with basketball, knockout, and not what you might have thought by that title. But Obed, what's good, man? How you been, man?
Yeah, just a disclaimer: Joel is not a criminal, as far as I know. I mean, I don't know what happens over there. I mean,
squeaky clean.
Okay, good. Man, how you doing? How's it going? What you up to?
Oh man, it's been real good, dude. I mean, just been really feeling more relaxed more recently. Summer's here. It's a great time just to catch up with friends and family and catch up on life. So just feeling really refreshed, man. I mean, the biggest thing for me is just trying to temper my excitement because, guys, we are here. It's time for Infinity War. Infinity War is out, as you guys are going to be watching and listening to this. It's been something that we've waited for, Obed, for 10 years.
Yep.
And, it's for some people even longer, right? Because the Infinity Gauntlet comic came out 20 years ago. So this is a huge deal that this movie's coming out, and to see what Marvel's done from the past just makes me so excited for the present and for the future. So I'm just keeping my expectations, tempered, so that way I go in and just have a crazy time. But keep an eye out on our social media. Obviously, we have some big things planned for our next episode where Obed and I will probably talk about it in depth. But yeah, man, it's just been a lot of, I think where I am right now is just looking at, oh my goodness, we're here. The movie's here. I'm going to see the movie very soon, very shortly. And I can't wait, man. So I watched Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay.
I got to see that. I watched that again just because. And I have it in 4K. And now they have a 4K player. Oh my goodness, Obed. I mean, we talked about this before, The Last Jedi, but with this movie, maybe even a little bit more. It's the colors. I'm telling you, man. The colors are so dynamic.
That's exactly what I told you when I watched it on 4K, and I told you that I think the biggest difference is just the color. I don't want to say color perception, but I think that just the color spectrum itself is just crazy, especially on that movie, on the suit and everything. It looks so nice, man.
Yeah, man. So I mean, and it's credit to Sony and their technology and how they they do. It's a great 4K copy. So yeah, it's been being very marvelous over here. But Obed, man, how are things go with you?
No, before I jump in on the stuff that I got, Joel, quick tidbit that I learned just before we started recording tonight. So they announced, I don't know if it was late last night or this morning, that what the pre-order bonus for Spider-Man for PS4 is going to be the Iron Spider suit from Infinity War. And we saw the trailer because you didn't know about it. And I showed you, hey, do you see the pre-order bonus? So tidbit on that, Joel, Marvel actually gave Sony the asset from the movie so they can create, or not Sony, but Insomniac, so they can put the suit on the game. So the suit in the game is 100% the suit from the movie.
That's amazing for them to share that property. That's a big deal. I don't think people realize how much the logistics behind that, the legal stuff there, like for them to actually say, yeah, you know what, it's okay, we trust you guys. I mean, you and I both know this game looks phenomenal, so that means they're really trusting, and Marvel's fully all in with this.
Yeah. I mean, it crazy how different it is from Marvel vs. Capcom, right? Like these guys are going full in on this Spider-Man game. And then I don't know what happened. I really don't know. I wish that someday that story behind what happened with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite comes out, because I am curious to know what really went and what really happened behind closed doors and the things that we don't know, and why this thing. I sent you that meme that I finally found.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's not Dragon Ball Fighter Z that killed Marvel's Capcom Infinite. It's Capcom. It's like, because guys, come on. Anywho, Joe, there's a I don't know if you heard about a little independent game called like I think it's like the Master of Battle or something like that. Oh, God of War. That's the name of the game. It's out. It's finally out. Um, all right, Joe, where do I start? Um, it is to me, and this is coming from an old school, and I've said it before. I've taken my nostalgia glasses off, and I appreciate modern gaming as the best time to play video games. I think God of War is, I don't want to say the first, because to me, the first game that defined this generation is probably Horizon Zero Dawn. Because that game is fantastic on every aspect. Um, Level design, art design, the way it's structured, the things you can do, and the way the game looks. To me, that was the first big game that I said, "Yo, this is like new stuff that I've never seen before." God of War follows that trend. It is another defining moment in gaming. It takes the single player gaming experience and just elevates it to 12. Because Horizon did it, elevated it to 11. This goes to 12. This is like one step forward. Um, uh, that Kratos, a disclaimer, Joel, also confession. I am a Sony fan since the PS2. I was a Sega kid. I wasn't a big fan of the PS1, but once Sega went under, I went with PS2. Uh, that being said, I am open to any console, any platform, and all platforms have fantastic gaming experiences. Uh, I was never very fond of God of War ever. I played the first one, and I was like, it's not my cup of tea. I played it; it was hyped, and that was it. I never played two, never played three, never played the PSP versions, and I have both of them for free that I can play on Vita. But never, I was never a big fan. I found the story kind of like juvenile, and putting all this like sex mini games and all this over the top violence and all this stuff. That was, I mean, it's a product of its era, right? It was the edgy moment for PlayStation. It was a very edgy moment in the mid 2000s when this game came out, and David Jaffe, who directed the original game, it's known to be a dude bro edgy guy. So um, I was never a big fan of it, but this is completely different
It
from those
resets
games.
it resets the page, right?
Absolutely, like it's a soft reboot in the sense that it's a sequel, but it is as different as it could be in many aspects. The combat is very different. The story is very different. The way that Kratos behaves is really different. The way the interactions with Atreus, uh, what seems to be a very strong relationship that he had with his wife. What he thinks of the gods and of divine beings in the universe now. It's fantastic. So far, I know I'm about 7 hours in. I think it's just very impressive all around. Possibly the best looking game I've ever played. Definitely one of the best soundtracks that I've heard in the game. Sound design is flawless. Voice acting top notch. Everything is great. I cannot say enough good things about this. I really like that they changed the combat from a mindless hack and slash where you're pretty much invincible to you have to be conscious of your surroundings. If not, you're gonna get got. It's hard. I actually got died a couple times on the same place because I just needed to figure out a better strategy to do combat. It has a parry mechanic that is not super great, but it allows you to parry and attack, and then you can roll out and do something else. The combat is very similar. It's like an easy Dark Souls. That's how I would define the combat. Atreus is really helpful with his arrows and going around and finding stuff and guiding you. Hey, father, this way. Hey, look at this thing. So he kind of like guides you because the game is well designed. Like the level structure and the level design is great, but it's not too handholdy. It does have like the yellow markings, kind of like Uncharted, So whenever you see something yellow, you can interact with it. So it has things like that, but it has a couple of things that are a little bit more obscure. But then Atreus would go, "Hey, father, take a look at this thing," and you get what's going on, boy? And this, Kratos comes out and tries to be a badass. I think at the end of the day, at the end of this story, Joel, I think it's gonna be like Kratos still thinks he's a badass, but he's a big softie, and we'll probably see that.
He's got a kid. I mean, it changes everything.
Yeah, and even the kid like says was like, well, you've always been kind of like this, grumpy guy that never wants to hang out with me and all this stuff. Like everything the son he learned from his mother because there's like that barrier from Kratos' past that it doesn't allow him to interact with his son in a normal way. But Jolie's fantastic. I cannot say enough good things about it. I've gotten a couple of things spoiled, nothing too major. So every time I see a video pop up on YouTube, it's like, oh, God of War, Kratos does this thing. I do. I'm not interested. That way I don't see them on the feed, and it's working because I'm seeing less and less videos pop up now.
Nice.
But I want to keep it spoiler free. But yeah, man, fantastic game. Cannot say enough good things about it. I can't wait to see. Very, like I said, the structure is very different. It has a level up system that I find it's a little bit obtuse and overcomplicated for the type of game that it is. But I think it's because I don't have enough XP, and I'm still like in a very like I finally got to the non-linear portion of the game, but it does a good job telling you bits and pieces of Norse mythology and talking about Odin and Thor and the World Serpent and Yggdrasil and all this stuff. And pointing out is like, oh yeah, like right now from what you can gather is that Thor and Odin are pretty big a-holes, and you probably know what's going to happen. So we'll see where it goes. Very interested to see. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying I'm fascinated to hear your update when you get through more of this, probably this upcoming weekend. So yeah. I really I've heard nothing but great things about this game, and hearing what you've said now just solidifies even more. Just like you said, it's such a difference. It's such a new chapter, and from a story standpoint, from the approach to the game. But some people would be like, oh no, that's a bad thing. No, it's actually a good thing, and I think it's because it's the way it's utilizing the technology of PlayStation 4. It just sounds to me like it's going to be taken very serious, and is be taken very serious. Not this just slice and dice, bang bang kind of game, but it's really being taken to a deeper place. And kudos to PlayStation 5 and this exclusive come out the timing that they do, because I think it's great timing with the summer and whatnot, and it's a huge success. So it's great to hear.
Yeah, and they did a fantastic job with Kratos was a very unempathetic character in the previous games, very unlikable. Here he's still very rough because they're definitely paying homage to his past, but they did a fantastic job in I don't want to say softening him, but humanizing him, and they did a fantastic job with that. And fantastic what the way the story is going is really good. It's challenging, well designed, and like I said, that Kratos character model is probably the best character model that I've seen on a game ever, like hands down. It's fantastic. So not enough good things about it. Other than that, Joel, I managed to grab Midnight Blue DualShock 4
That's
limited
what's
edition. And that's pretty neat. Gonna be using that on the weekend. Yeah, man, that DualShock that I modded with that orange faceplate, that D-pad, it lost its crunch, and I was like, I find myself that I can't use it for Dragon Ball anymore. So I've been using it to play Battlefront because I go a little bit rough on Battlefront, and I take my controller and I kind of like rage on it a little bit. So that's gonna be my rage controller.
Designated rage controller.
Yeah, there you go. Designated.
Don't worry, guys. I know there's a savage part to Obed, and we got a little taste of it last week, but I know at some point in this episode we'll return to that. So
Oh yeah.
I know that part's always fun.
Yeah, trust me on that. Joe, do you want to start with the topics for this week? We got quite a few things going on. Tell us about movie trailers, man.
Yeah, man. So it was trailer week. I mean, just dropping stuff. So the first big one to drop that we're going to talk about here is Venom. You can't talk about. I think this probably was the biggest trailer that stood out to me.
Episode 3, we talked about it.
Episode 3, we did, and this is one of those ones that I was on the record. You listen to old episodes of me saying that I was very cautious, and I remain still cautiously optimistic. But I was someone who I didn't understand why they were making this movie, and I didn't understand the approach. And I get it a lot more now with this trailer. I like this trailer way more than I do the last trailer. The last trailer, I thought it was fine, but it didn't make me actually on board to say, oh, I'm going to go out to the theater. It didn't make me excited for this movie. And to be real, I don't think I remember that many people even referencing that trailer. But this trailer, Obed, when you start talking about the symbiote and they actually showed us, was the only thing that was my biggest complaint. I said, we need to see the symbiote. I don't need to see this gooey thing in a container. I didn't want to see that. And to me, you can't sell this movie by doing that. Yeah, you want the reveals and all that. You can hide the action scenes and all stuff. I don't need to see that, but I need to see the symbiote. I need to see what it looks like so I can buy in. And Obed, they did it almost perfectly. I mean, it's a way 10 times better iteration than we saw in Spider-Man 3. I'm not trying to hate on that movie because the movie I think is fine and gets more hate than it deserves. But but this Venom specifically is going to be taken way more seriously. And I think that was the thing that stood out to me the most is the development of this Eddie Brock character, where there's a lot of speculation of how are they going to do this? Is it an anti-hero, what have you? They basically insinuate Eddie Brock is already an edgy, if I may say, a very a more one of those journalists that really gets into the places that our people are uncomfortable to get into, right? Investigative journalists. But I think what's interesting is how it's not that he is a bad person, but when he has the symbiote, he's able to do things that he wouldn't have necessarily thought of doing, but it's because of the symbiote leading him to do these things. So that's why he really is an anti-hero, because the symbiote is the dark side. But Eddie Brock, even though, yeah, he's not like a Boy Scout or something, but he's someone that does still have like a standard. He even says in the trailer, if we do this, a lot of people are going to get hurt and die, if I'm not mistaken, he says. And
it's like we're going to go out and just hurt the bad guys, right?
Yeah.
And then the symbiote replies, so it's like, oh no, we can do whatever we want.
Right. So there's a point that's where I see that anti-hero kind of conversation coming in. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm on board for this movie. Now I'm on board for it, because this is the Venom that I read about, the way the symbiote part is. I think that was the only thing that kind of stuck out to me was how that one actress, the one part where she's the scientist, she's talking to Brock, and she's like, the symbiote, or however she says it. I was symbiote. Yeah, I was like, why are you stressing it like that? That's just weird. But yeah, that's just little Joel stuff there. But Obed, tell them what you think.
And that's something that they get ADR over, like they can re-record the audio and just ADR over her, her basically her speech. So I liked it. I liked it a lot. The only scene or only moment that I found really like corny in that trailer was the scene with the motorcycle, and then the symbiote goes out and grabs the motor. That was so freaking dumb. But other than that, it looks good. Tom Hardy, he's a solid actor, man, and Michelle Williams is a great actress. I'm pretty sure that they're going to carry the movie. Hopefully they have chemistry. Unfortunately, that hindered a couple of Marvel movies here and there, but hopefully they do have some chemistry. And I'm interested to see the possibility of Carnage, which pretty much already was confirmed to be in the movie. We'll see where it goes. I really like the suit when it forms. You can tell that they're still working on the SFX, because there's a couple of things here or there that are a little bit off. Granted, the budget for this movie is not the same as Homecoming or something close to that. It's something a little more conservative. But I think they're doing a good job. It looks good. Like the Venom face looks great. It looks accurate. It doesn't, yeah, like you mentioned, it looks 100 times better than the one on Spider-Man 3. And Spider-Man 3, I think, because they wanted to have some artistic consistency on the suit, because Spider-Man wore it, and then Eddie Brock wore it in the movie. They wanted to keep to some consistency to it, but at the end of the day, it didn't pay off. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, I'm pumped. I'm hyped. I'll see this thing when it comes out. I'll probably won't catch it in the movie theater. I'll probably buy it when it comes out. If it reviews well, of course, because if I don't see a movie in the movie theater and it reviews poorly, like for example, the forgotten hidden gem from the dark DC universe, Suicide Squad, I'll just wait.
Totally forget that movie.
Yeah, we were talking about DC movies again this week, and we totally forgot.
Like, oh yeah, there was a Suicide Squad movie.
I was like, oh crap, man. This freaking movie, man. It just wants to disappear.
I know. Well, speaking of another movie, man, Deadpool. So we got another trailer for Deadpool, Deadpool 2, and I mean, not really much to talk about here except that it's more Deadpool being Deadpool, and the trailers are still getting great people reacting to it. I think this movie's going to make a lot more money than the first one. Oddly enough, though, Obed, I get a little bit of a Guardians of the Galaxy 2 feeling in the sense of, how the first Guardians was very lightning in a bottle. It worked when most people would think in Hollywood it would not do as well as it did and made ridiculous money. I think the second one's going to do well and make a lot of money, but I just feel like it may not capture the same response that the first one did, and that's just because, again, the nature of what the first movie did. For the second one, that's just my feelings watching this. I just keep getting this feeling that there's going to be a lot of people getting excited about it, but that they'll move on and say, okay, we had a good time, or, oh, what have you. But I feel like the first one, that really stuck for a very long time. We'll see. We'll see how it reviews and whatnot, but not really much to, again, say with the trailer, just that it's Deadpool being Deadpool. And, I mean, it's the marketing campaign. They actually have a marketing budget this time, so they're marketing a whole lot more. And honestly, their marketing team has told us exactly what this movie is going to be and exactly what to expect. So interesting.
Yeah. And do you see that Rob Liefeld's designing the Fandango poster for it?
I did. And I thought that was pretty awesome. Because especially that like the comic book creator is alive for this movie. He's very much a part of these movies being made. And to have him not just be someone who's being used to put in the front of, oh, this is a great movie, and trying to use him as someone to promote it. You're also getting him involved even from the sense of just the promotional. Like that's awesome to me. I love hearing that kind of stuff. Similarly to the way I even feel about Avengers: Infinity War, with the creator of Thanos, how he's been coming out recently. He's been saying a lot of really positive stuff about Thanos' depiction, saying it was the best depiction he could have dreamed of for Thanos. When I love hearing that kind of stuff from comic book creators. So Rob Liefeld doing this with Deadpool, that's cool.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about the 3 little like tidbits or Easter eggs that were in that trailer. The first one was when Deadpool calls asked Cable to what was it again? It's like pump the hate brakes Thanos or something like that.
Yes, he does call him that. Yep.
He calls him Thanos the movie. Yep. Of course, the Thanos and Cable are played by Josh Brolin, so that's where the jab comes. Same actor, so that's where the jab comes from. And the other one is the DC Universe one when Cable stabbing him in the shoulder. Like, oh, you're so dark. You must be from the DC Universe.
That was so good because I was like, wow. I mean, he's never been afraid to say stuff, but wow. I mean,
yeah. They did it.
They went shots fired, guys. Shots fired.
Yeah, and the other one's when he split the bullet is the same bullet splitting from Wolverine Origins, from X-Men Origins Wolverine. And then the same sword dance that he does when he's covering from the bullets, but then he still gets hit.
Of course, of course. It's like nearly impossible to, yeah.
Yeah. So just saying that, like, the first one I'll pass, but all this bullcrap that we did in Wolverine was not actually gonna work anyway. Uh,
Exactly.
so that was pretty funny. Yeah, that's another one. I waited for the first one to come out on Blu-ray to see it, and it maybe it may this 2 months are going to be pretty heavy. With Avengers and then Solo. I have a family. I don't have the luxury to just hop onto a movie theater. So I'll probably catch Solo in the movie theater and then watch Deadpool when it comes out on Blu-ray. But other than that, man, we do have some, I think, okay DC news.
We have good news. Yeah, news that, I mean, like, it's not shocking news, it's not breaking news, but it's news nonetheless that Wonder Woman 2 during CinemaCon was formally announced and by Patty Jenkins, and Patty Jenkins went to the extent of saying that this movie is going to take place in the 80s. That had been rumored for a little bit ago, so her coming out and confirming that's interesting. Also confirmed that Chris Pine, who plays Steve Trevor, is also coming back to the movie. And that's the part I think that made me most interested, even more than maybe the 80s thing. Just because it's like, I had heard rumors that like he was going to play his grandson or something, like in a future movie or something when they initially casted him, because you knew he was going to die. I mean, like, spoiler alert. I mean, if you know the character, you know what goes on. He had to die, right? But it's interesting nonetheless. I think the other part that I want to mention about this whole thing about the confirmation of the 80s is it now starts to feel as if Wonder Woman, yes, she's a part of this large DCEU, she's a part of this universe, but it feels like her solo movies is really going to evolve in its own world. And when I say that, it's like you could watch the first Wonder Woman movie and have never seen Man of Steel, never seen Batman vs Superman, and never seen Suicide Squad, and you're fine. Like, there is no need to watch those movies to watch Wonder Woman. And I feel the same thing's going to happen with Wonder Woman 2, where it's like when you watch Wonder Woman 2, you probably will only have had to need to see the first Wonder Woman movie to see the second Wonder Woman movie. And I feel like Patty Jenkins maybe strategically is doing this, Obed, because I feel like her first movie was so strong, so well received, that it's like, let me kind of stay in my own vein and not get mucked up with what's going on in the other parts of DCU. Because imagine a Wonder Woman 2 set right after the events of Justice League, then you have to. There's no way you can move on without addressing what happened in that movie with the mascara and all the mother boxes, right, and all that stuff. Right, you'd have to talk about it. But because of her going and staying, a few years, later after the first Wonder Woman movie, but still not getting anywhere near the new stuff, I think this now starts to make her again stay in her own world, and it's smart. I mean, her movie, this first Wonder Woman movie, it was not a very connected movie again to the DCU. There's no real strong connections except for the Bruce Wayne thing, right, in the beginning, the delivery, right. But you don't need. There's not like, oh, I didn't know that was Wayne. I mean, everyone knows who Bruce Wayne is, right? But it's one of those deals where she's making very good movies. I'm not saying it's not a comic book movie, but I feel as if the movie wasn't approached as a comic book movie. It was just approached as a very good movie because of not having these comic book there's Easter eggs, but not crazy, right? And that's fine. And I think that's what played their success. So there's a strategic move, Obed, here and having it in the 80s, more than people might recognize, just from the sense I believe of her keeping it separate from what's going on, from the disliked stuff.
Yeah, I think that they should definitely open and end the movie like in the same fashion they did with the first Wonder Woman movie, which is acknowledging what happened in the previous movie, like in Batman versus Superman. They acknowledged, like, on Wonder Woman is like they acknowledged that what happened on Batman versus Superman already happened, so they should acknowledge what happened in Justice League in some way or another, maybe, at the beginning of the movie, end of the movie, whatever, because they need to continue. What happened, man? You're right.
I'm good. Something fell behind me.
You're falling apart over there. Holy crap!
Wonder Woman, she got me.
So yeah. So the DC universe is like kryptonite.
It's dark.
But then the middle of the movie, the gross of the movie should be something fresh, like the first movie was. And I think the '80s is great. So definitely set it on the '80s, and uh, hopefully the Cheetah is gonna be okay, and the movie's gonna be fun. So
And that's the other thing, Obed. I gotta mention that since you just mentioned Cheetah, with it being in the '80s, being confirmed, knowing that Cheetah is confirmed to also be the villain for this movie. I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible. I feel like they can go two ways. They can either just make it where it's like Cheetah is a standalone villain in this movie, similar to the way Ari's was, right? Like, he's his own thing. This is a separate movie. Similar to the way Marvel does, right? They don't tend to repeat villains, like once it's like a Loki or something, right? They could just make Cheetah just be the Wonder Woman 2 villain, and that's fine. I was more interested to see Cheetah live out and come into the Legion of Doom, right? Just like the way you're seeing them go at the end of the Justice League movie, right? Where, spoilers, the movie's been out for a little bit. They hint that there's going to be a evil team to combat the Justice League. I was hoping that Cheetah would be a part of that team because that's what she is in some of the storylines. So we'll see. I mean, that could be a connective tissue, but that's just something I thought about as you mentioned it.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with Wonder Woman. Hopefully it's gonna be all right. I think it's in good hands as long as the studio keeps away from the project. Because that seems to be the problem with DC movies, right? Is the studio coming in between the creative vision of the director and all that stuff? So we will see.
We'll see.
Joel, just let's go ahead and jump into the gaming news. I do have some breaking news from this morning. So when Satoru Iwata died a couple years ago, Tatsumi Kimishima took over the reins of Nintendo. So he was in charge of wrapping up the release of the Switch, and clearly the guy is a great businessman. The Switch is doing fantastic, and he was able to keep the wheel rolling on Nintendo. But it was announced this morning that he is retiring, and in his place, Shuntaro Furukawa will take the rest of Nintendo as president and basically managing executive officer of Nintendo and president of the company. Interesting, because I did not see that Kimishima was going to retire so soon. Although he is, he's an older gentleman, but I've heard that he is well liked in the company. So I wasn't expecting him to leave so soon. Kimishima is actually 68 years old, but the so Shuntaro Furukawa he was actually, I believe he was like a managing director for the Pokemon company. And he was very involved with the development of the Switch. And he's a younger guy. He is only 46 years old. So you're going to get a younger guy with a lot of experience. He's been with Nintendo since '94, being with the Pokemon company, was very involved with the Switch. Of course, the Switch is doing fantastic. They just released a bunch of sales numbers today, and like over 10 million copies of Super Mario Odyssey have been sold. It's still doing fantastic out there. It's out in the wild. Like the Switch is readily available. If you want to buy one right now, let's go to Target, and they have them. Like, they're everywhere now.
Nice.
So these things are out there. So interesting. So we will see what comes out of that, and best of luck for Mr. Kimishima. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add in there is we didn't see it coming, but if you think about it, Obed, what a way to go out. I mean, with the success of the Switch, that's like, to me, like, if you want to go out, it's like, hey, I've done my job right. This thing's doing well. I can leave now on good terms, not leave and be like, this thing's falling in shambles. And you're like, he's done a great job. Obviously everyone at Nintendo has. And Yeah, I mean, it's a sign indicative of good leadership. So I'm happy for him, but it's also sad seeing him leave. But you know what? Got to keep moving forward, and he's left them in good hands. So there's no excuse for them not to continue to thrive off of the success that came before.
Absolutely, and the big thing is that we were all nervous when Satoru Iwata passed away, with what would become of Nintendo. I mean, Satoru Iwata was a game developer. This guy was
Yes.
in the trenches, and he understood uh, the the audience, and he understood the developers. So it was a big blow to the company and to the gaming community overall, because he was well liked by everyone. Um, and so Kimishima had a great responsibility, right? When he became the president of Nintendo, and making sure that the Switch wasn't even announced, and Wada passed away. Kimishima uh, just plowed through. So he's going out, and he's going out. It's like, yeah, this thing's doing great. I'm out. You guys deal with it. Kind of like what Andrew House did at Sony. I was like, oh, this thing's doing great, so I'm gonna go do something else and retire and go to the beach in Mexico and get sunburned. It's kind of like the same, but best of luck to Furukawa, and I know that the guy eats. There's rumors that there's gonna be a fully fleshed open world Pokemon game coming out for the Switch.
That'd be big.
Once that thing drops, Joel,
that's big.
Come on, it's gonna be impossible to find a Switch.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
So I think the time to buy a Switch is right now, because there's not a lot of games coming out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, that's a good bet.
Yeah. Joel, quick update from last week's rage rant that I had about battle royale games. So real quick, Call of Duty, and I'm gonna be looking at my own other monitor here just to be sure that I have the correct info. But it's two things for Call of Duty Black Ops 4. So they are stating, Activision and Treyarch are saying that the reason why the single player experience is not coming out is because they're not going to be able to finish it on time. That was a bigger project than they had expected, and it's not going to come out on time. So they are going to release the game as a multiplayer game. Maybe in the future add that mode. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see what that mode could have been. But that was based on what Activision and Treyarch are saying. That's the reason why. Another tidbit of information that they put in this interview, and by the way, this is an article from Polygon that Polygon was able to compile together once the rumors started going out that the game will feature a battle royale mode, and it was on multiplayer only. So one very interesting thing, Joel, is that apparently they are having problems with having 100 players at a time. So that mode may not be available at launch. That may be something that they'll add later to the game. It would also make sense, because then their other game modes are just going to be dead, and there's not going to be anyone playing team deathmatch and deathmatch and capture the flag, or whatever they call that mode in Call of Duty now. So makes sense to release that at a later date. I would say Call of Duty should wait through at least 90 days, and release this mode after Christmas or something. Because even if they're saying that they're having problems with having 100 players, maybe the engine's not designed to do that. I'm not entirely sure what sort of engine they're using. I don't know if they're using an in-house engine, or if they're using a third-party engine and bringing it into development. But it's interesting to note that, Joel, that they are having problems. Apparently, the Battlefield stuff that came out as well. was very experimental and also not in a 100% working order. So that may come in at a later date as well. The one that's kind of confirmed ish right now is that Red Dead Redemption 2 will have a battle royale mode. I don't doubt it. Rockstar are, one of the top developers in the world. They have the resources to be able to come up with this sort of mode. But just a quick update on that. I'm still really on the fritz on this thing. It's not. I'm not super loving it. Apparently, that other game that came out from Boss Key, what was it called? Radical Heights. I think I mentioned it last week. Apparently, that's doing okay. So good for them, man. Apparently, because I follow Cliffy B on Twitter, and apparently Ninja streamed it, and after Ninja streamed it, then he came and Ninja said, "Hey, this is pretty okay." So apparently that brought a lot of people in, and he hit #1 on Steam. So I'm sorry, not #1 on Steam, but #1 on Twitch, even if it was for a few hours. So good for them. They definitely needed the comeback with the absolute disaster that was Lawbreakers. That game just really was born to die. Pretty much, it was. Seriously, the game came out and there was like 400 players and there was like 12 players last week on it.
Ooh, that's not good.
Like you can't even get a full game with 12 players. Come on, man.
Oh my gosh.
So that game's like it's dead and done. So they're gonna definitely move the resources into Radical Heights. But Joe, all right, I wanna jump into this one. And I need to cool off a little bit before I begin. So I don't know if you have anything else, any other tidbits or any other bits of news that came out recently, but I'm about to jump into a topic that I've been wanting to talk about a little bit, but at the same time I've been really cautious not to bring in because of gamer drama and all that stuff. So but I'm going to talk about it.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
So we've all known God of War came out. We've all known how successful the PlayStation 4 has been on this generation. Even the PlayStation 4 Pro, when people and naysayers said, no, this is a terrible move, this is not going to sell. Even the PlayStation 4 Pro is doing really well out there. The same could be said for Nintendo. Their platform, the Switch, is doing really well right now. They're going to keep adding features. They're going to keep adding stuff to the device, and that's great. They had, again, I think the best launch year ever in the history of video games with all those games that came out last year for the Switch. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said by Microsoft. They fumbled the start. They did have a pretty okay string of exclusives with things like Sunset Overdrive and Quantum Break and a few Halo and Gears of War. So although they were separated by a couple of years, but we saw that there was not that mass craziness for Xbox like it was when the Xbox 360 came out. And I think the Xbox 360 had a great advantage that it was, ahead of its time. It was an HD console that came out when no other console was doing HD. I think that played a lot to the success of the Xbox 360. It coming out earlier than the PS4, a full year ahead. So, like I said, the same cannot be said by the Xbox One. And after reviews hit for God of War, and it started getting great reviews, and the announcement of the release date of Detroit Become Human and Spider-Man, I saw a range of reactions from what we call fanboys, right? Like you can have, like, we like the PlayStation and that's our platform of choice,
Yes.
but we're not gonna go in and say, oh, the Xbox is trash, because
Or you're terrible for liking it or something.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like when I saw a lot of you know people, calling uh PlayStation owners and PlayStation fans names when Persona 5 came out and all this stuff, like I don't engage in that and I don't condone it, and I just don't like it. I think it's a very toxic behavior, and all gaming communities deserve better. But there was a great, like I said, a range of emotions from my Xbox fan base. There was some of some of the hardcore fans that I follow, not necessarily follow, but casually follow on YouTube. We're talking about, wait, for real, guys, God of War is really good. And I'm an Xbox guy, and I hate to say this, but this is the best game that I've played this generation so far, and things like that, right? Other fanboys are saying, "Oh no, Sony paid all the reviewers to give tens." That is absolutely not true. That has been debunked many, many times.
Oh, can I put that into perspective for a
Go
second?
ahead, go ahead. Yeah,
This is the same thing that happens. People say with Marvel or other things, what have you, right? Oh, they paid for this stuff. Think about what you're saying for a second. You're saying that Marvel is going to every single one of these people, say, "Hey, we're gonna put this in your bank account. Say something good. Don't ever say anything bad." And not one outlet, not one journalist is gonna squeal and say, "You know what? Marvel approached me and they did, or Sony did this thing, and it's super shady, and I can't believe they would try and do this." You're gonna tell me not one person would have squealed? That everyone's just gonna take the money and run? Like does this even like talk about or even consider, for the sake of conversation, that would even be a reality? It's just it's like, think about what you're even saying for a second. That just doesn't make sense, Obed.
yeah, and that, like I said, it's been debunked many times. I mean, but again, we saw that level of toxicity and come out, and I wanted to touch on this, because it's, again, and we seen it with the PC Master Race, right? And oh yeah, you can't run this game at 4K 60. And like, oh, well, I didn't spend $3,000 to do it, and you know. It's like that, right? It's like, oh wait, you know what? If you have a gaming PC that costs you $3,000, enjoy it, and you don't have to start saying, oh, whatever, this is inferior or whatever. Can you imagine every time that I see someone with a freaking BMW M3 just saying, it's like, kneel before me, peasant, for you don't have a BMW M3.
Right. I can run
Like,
at this speed on the highway or whatever. It's
yeah.
like, good for you. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I've never had that happen to me ever. I mean, the day it happened, I don't know, life lessons, I guess, but but I've never seen it happen to me ever. And I, even if you call yourself a gamer and you only play on your phone, I don't care. If you enjoy what you're doing, that's awesome. I don't have to do any of this crap. I don't have to go over any of these drama. As long as you're good and you're not hurting anyone, it's whatever, dude. Do whatever you want, right? Play with whatever console you want. And the same goes to just bringing I talked a little bit about that toxicity, and I touched about some of the toxicity that I've seen on the retro gaming community. I was like, oh, well, modern gaming is terrible. It's like nothing compares to just putting your cartridge in and have no load time and just start playing your game. That's where the name of the podcast came from, right? I was like, I'm a retro gamer, and I really enjoyed when games had no load time. But we live in a different time now, so whatever. I mean, guess what, guys? When you have to load 132 kilobytes into RAM, guess what? That take like milliseconds. having to load 6 gigs of data onto RAM, then we can talk, right? Come on, guys. It's like the things that people don't realize, like oh, retro gamers. So I was like, oh yeah, because I play on this console, but do you know technology and do you know how things work? Then you would realize, oh wait, this is why then. But I have my retro consoles and I seldom play with them because there's nothing for me to gain from them anymore, right? I had my enjoyment, I had my time with them, and I still go back and yearly have a couple of games that I play. You know, I play Castlevania Symphony of the Night every year, and I try to, you know, at least play Super Mario World every once in a while because I love it, and I play Street Fighter 2 a couple of times a year. But I'm not gonna say it was like, oh no, Street Fighter 2 was definitely way better than Street Fighter 5, because I'll be wrong, you know, and uh, then people need to realize this, and it goes to all communities, like you mentioned. It just goes back to the Marvel DC stuff, and um, same thing goes to
Apple, Android. I mean,
Apple, Android. I remember when plasma TVs used to be really hot, and people was just like, "Oh, plasma just blows away all those peasant LCDs." And oh, look at this blacks on this TV; it looks fantastic.
Plasma doesn't exist,
and then the plasma doesn't exist anymore. I mean, OLED is the evolution of plasma or LED, if you would call it. But then again, it's twice what you would pay for a conventional LCD TV. And it goes to, like, even in the fighting game community, oh, you're such a freaking noob because you're playing on a pad. Where's your fight stick, bro? And you know, even on that sort of community, right? And I just wanted to just share how I felt about it. But just going back to Xbox, so something really, in my opinion, I don't want to say it's disturbing because this is gaming. North Korea being a threat is disturbing. Syria is disturbing. This is gaming. This is entertainment. Nothing that you can do in this industry is disturbing, really. That's the blunt truth, guys. Seriously, serious moment on No Low Time. But something that kind of worried me happened, and it was IGN posted a meme. I believe it was on God of War's release date, or a couple of days prior to that. It was one of those memes that was a graphics comparison. So it was comparing the graphics from the PS4 and the Xbox One, and the PS4 God of War graphics were God of War, and the Xbox was a black screen. And you know, a jab meme that I've seen 1,000 times out there, man. Yeah. I mean, it's like, guys, it's like calling Moriarty's joke. It's like, this is freaking inoffensive, guys.
I know, right? Like, no one's in the shower crying about this.
I know, exactly. Yeah. Like, no one's gonna think that they're gonna break down their doors and take their kids for this.
Yeah, you're not losing sleep over this or something.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a
problem in the world.
Yeah, it was a jab joke, and I've seen other games outlets do it, not necessarily IGN, but they did it, and that's fine. Funny joke, right? But then Ron McCaffrey, who is the senior editor at IGN, and he's in charge of Xbox. He's the host of Podcast Unlocked. I really don't like to call out names on our podcast. And I've stayed away from other, drama that has happened with other YouTubers and video game personalities, and we've only touched briefly, and when you have not mentioned names, I think this is probably the first time that I mentioned a name about a games journalist or whatever you want to call yourself, right? And he tweeted this. He tweeted after that post from IGN came out. He tweeted, "I would like to sincerely apologize to the Xbox team as well as the Xbox community on behalf of the IGN editorial team. The Facebook and Instagram posts were unprofessional and classless and were made without my knowledge. the post will be deleted ASAP. And he added Aaron Greenberg and Xbox Quick, which I think is this other guy from Microsoft. Refresh my mind, Mikey Barra. So he copied them on it, and then I believe that Greenberg replied, "Okay, cool, thanks for the update." Kind of like, you didn't need to do this. And then Mikey Barra streamed God of War on Friday when the game came out, and Xbox fanboys went crazy. And I was like, "Yo!" It was like, "Oh, you can. Why don't you just stream an Xbox game? What about streaming like Sea of Thieves or like Gears of War or Forza or some Xbox game? Why are you streaming the competition?" And he said, I don't remember if it was him or Aaron Greenberg, because they've been really back and forth with the fans. They've been, man, props to them, because they have been hit them and Phil Spencer. These guys are executives, guys. They don't need to answer to your crap. Like, honestly, bro, they do not need to answer to you for anything. These are corporate executives from Microsoft, man. Those they so props to them for being so engaged with their fans, right? But at the same time, they are realizing how toxic these fans are, and and how crazy it's gotten. There's another guy. I don't know. I'll talk about other people that I watched on YouTube just go bananas over God of War, and they still call the reviews biased. It's a fantastic game. You know what's the only gripe I have with the game, Joel? That the text is too small, and sometimes I can't read what it says. That's the only thing. And it's true. And they actually patched it. I think it was like Saturday night. They patched.
It's already fixed.
It's already fixed. So, I don't know, man. It's the way I felt since the original console wars, right? Since the Sega versus Nintendo back in the day. Both consoles had a lot to offer. There were third options that were unattainable, like seriously unattainable, because you had something like the SNK Neo Geo that was $500. Games were $300. You get a real full arcade experience at home, but then you have to spend the money. And even then, I think the Super Nintendo was a better console than the Neo Geo, and to some extent the Sega Genesis. I think the Sega Genesis was a very, very strong console, but towards the end, you can tell that Sega had no compass, and they just started going everywhere, and you can tell that from the Genesis library. How focused they were for the first 4 years, and then for the first 3 years, 4 years, and then like around 93, they just started going like everywhere, and it was a mess. And versus Nintendo having Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario World 2 and all this, Yoshi's Island and all this stuff coming out. It's very unfortunate to see the gaming community behave like entitled children. We're all adults. If you're a kid, that's fine. You are a kid, you act like a kid. That's whatever. But like, seriously, why are people doing free PR and free advertising and all these stuff? Like, I like to do my God of War thing, and I don't care. I was like, we're still a small podcast and a small channel, so we have zero advertisers. What we have is what we own. We paid for everything that we present on this podcast, guys, just to make it clear, right? So I think that gaming as a whole, they just need to grow up, right? These things are not. Why are you losing sleep over the Xbox not doing well and having very little like console, like zero console exclusives at this point, because you can play everything on PC, and then having a very short content line. There were some leaks last week that we didn't want to talk about on the podcast for E3, and if these leaks are real, it looks like it's going to be another okay E3, nothing super great um, for Microsoft. Again, we hope that they do good. At this point, Joel, there were some rumors and stuff about the next Xbox. Why? Do you have a console that came out 4 months ago? That's the most powerful console in the market right now. Why are you talking about this? Why?
No sense.
So, just to me, Joel, to be honest with you, and we can do like another episode about tech predictions and gaming predictions and all that. But I think that IGN reacting to a joke in this manner, and I understand that they are supposed to be unbiased because they are getting money from these guys. Um, but at the same time, I think it was like a great overreaction. Just delete the post. You're not offending anyone by putting that post and by deleting it. But now you're offending, not necessarily offending, but like you're turning on and you're actually making a few people react negatively from that tweet, and that's exactly what happened. People weren't offended. The tweet came out. It's like, wait, yo, why are you being so defensive? Um, I'm not a Podcast Unlocked listener. I've listened to it here and there. I'm not a huge listener from that podcast. I do listen to a couple of the other IGN podcasts, but not necessarily that one all the time. I think it was definitely an overreaction. I think the fans need to chill. I mean, this what's the saying goes? Like, this is why we can't have nice things, Joel, right? And the same thing goes to all the gaming communities. Like, and there's League of Legends community is known for being a very toxic community. There's a rampant rage quit problem on Dragon Ball Fighter Z right now. That last time I played, I had like 3 rage quits, and I was like, why are people doing this? And it's rampant. There's, a big problem with it. And, there's the very, very toxic Street Fighter players. And there's toxicity on all of this. And I believe that we guys should be having fun. There's people spending. God of War took 5 years to make. There's people working really, really hard to make this content for you guys. Just enjoy it and have fun with it, and not be a fanboy, and just be nice to each other and try to keep it civil. If you think the Xbox is better, put your facts out there, and let the facts speak for themselves, and that's it. You don't have to have to do PR and be like a free advertising venue from a corporation that makes billions of dollars a year. You don't need to do this. But guys, I love gaming, and I really want this gaming to be treated as an art form, as I believe it is. But at the same time, we need to keep it legit. So that's all I got, man.
Obed, well said. Went off on that there. You told me it was going to be coming, and we had talked about this for a little bit from last weekend. And yeah, man, there's a lot that can be said there. And the way you talked up from the beginning, the retro gamer, the gamer of this generation, the comparisons. Then you start talking about people overreacting, with jokes such as this, and it really is a joke. I genuinely do not believe anyone was offended. Like, if you want to look up the definition of offended, it's just a strong term, and I genuinely don't believe anyone was genuinely offended by this. However, there is this elitist mindset. Yeah. There is this mindset that some people have of the comparison, and I'm better than because you don't understand. I've done X, Y, and Z, or I've been a part of this, da 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 da, or because this has more power, or because of this who has the bigger console, who has the more power, who has all these more experiences. That just makes it, like you said, Obed, toxic. And it's unfortunate when it spreads out in this kind of way because, yeah, IGN, it probably shouldn't have posted that. At the same time, IGN they are a news platform, but they also are an opinions platform, and their social media pokes fun at many things.
Yeah,
Not just this. This is nothing new. In fact, PlayStation has been mocked by many things before, and I've read some of those the stuff that's been mockeries of PlayStation. I wasn't offended by it, Obed. I just think it's an outrage culture. That's really you have to be watchful of, and that's just all we're trying to say. It's like, you could be like, oh, that was in poor taste and all these things, but to go out and pick up your pitchforks and say these things like you said, or these companies are, billion-dollar companies, they're making money, and you're pledging your allegiance, and they don't even know your name. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything about them, but they don't even know your name. Like, they're doing their thing. Respect what each one's doing, and you have a right to love the consoles and love things you love. And I get that it was a joke, and I get that it was, hey, something probably shouldn't have been done. But I think it's all about the reactions, the perspectives, and it's just something that hopefully gamers that listen to us here at No Load Time can take themselves into perspective and not be like just trying to think of how they can counter argument this, that, and the other, but just stop for a moment and think about what really has happened, and try and be peacemakers, because that's what we should be at the end of the day. But well said, Obed. You got anything else for us?
I am done. The only thing is, like, guys, if you're part of a gaming community, whether it be on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, iPhone, I don't care. If you're part of any gaming community, just be that guy, that makes your community better. So that's all I got.
We can all learn from it. It's true. Well, Obed, this is going to be the sign-off part now. Remember, guys, next week, Infinity War episode. It's going to be huge. It's going to be great. I've got my Spider-Man cap on right now, but guys, cannot express how excited I'm for this. But anyways, I'll signing off with you guys. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to us and watch us here at No Load Time. We really appreciate it, and we ask you to stay connected with us through our social media at No Load Time. That's at No Load Time on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. We also want you to go ahead and subscribe to our show. If you're listening to us on iTunes and Google Play and SoundCloud, you can subscribe to us. If you're an iTunes subscriber, please go ahead and drop a review. That really helps us out greatly. And we also want to say that you can stay in communication with us via email. We have an email address here, noloadtime@gmail.com. It's noloadtime@gmail.com, and you can shoot us questions, comments, feedback, especially about today's episode, about fanboys and whatnot. Maybe we'd love to hear from just different thoughts you might have had about that. So please, shoot us a message, even drop us a comments and social, and share this with your friends, so that way you can maybe start this discussion. But we're really excited about next week and our next episode. So we thank you for listening to us. Thank you for those who are already subscribers. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. But thank you again so much, and we look forward to our next episode.
Yeah, thank you guys, and you guys have a great rest of your week.